Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to the Sports Perspective TV. As always, thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate you being here and taking your time out to watch the video and interacting with the video as well. Right, so in this video, we see where Cricket West Indies, they have released the latest list of players that have been retained, that have secured retainer contracts for the 2024 to 2026 cricket seasons. So we're going to be looking at the list, discussing the list. There are quite a few big name players that have not been retained. So we're going to be going over the list, and then looking at it from a T20 standpoint and also from the test team standpoint as well, right? And as I go over the list, you'll notice that certain captains remain, but like I said, a lot of big name players have not secured retainer contracts, for whatever reason. So stick around until the end of the video as we look at the list and discuss the details, right? So before I do so, though, I'm just going to give you a few seconds to do the YouTube formalities, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you're new and have not subscribed as yet. So going to pause right here. All right, so you've liked the video, subscribe to the channel. All right, let's go. So like I said, the list has been released for players that have secured retainer contracts from Cricket West Indies. So the list is as follows, right? So as you can see, in terms of men's that have secured either 1 year or 2 year contracts, you will see where Craig Brathwaite, he has secured a contract and he is the captain, right? So he's the captain of the test team. So that means Brathwaite will more than likely remain as captain of the test team, for at least another year, because he's secured a 1 year contract. So he'll remain captain of the test team for at least another year. Ravman Powell, captain of the T20 team, 1 year contract as well. Then you have Alec Athanaze, Casey Carty, Rastan Chase, Joshua Da Silva, Kavim Hodge, Akil Hussain, and Romario Shepherd. Right, players that have secured multi-year contracts, which is our 2 year contracts, are Shea Hope, he's the captain of the ODI team, Alzar Joseph, Shamar Joseph, Brandon King, Gudakesh Moti, and Jaden Seals, right? So those are the players that have secured retainer contracts from Cricket West Indies for the upcoming 2 seasons, right? So looking at it now from a T20 standpoint, as you can tell, there are a lot of notable names that's not there. Whether you're looking at it from a T20 standpoint or even from a test standpoint. So, but first I'll look at it from a T20 standpoint. Right away off the bat, you notice that there's no Nicholas Puran there. There's no Jason Holder there. There's no Shimron Hetmeyer there. There's no Andre Russell there, right? Just to name a few, right? You can say Sherfin Rutherford as well, but I'm not sure what's going on with Rutherford now. He withdrew from the CPL due to personal reasons. So I'm not sure if that played a part in him not being offered a contract. But yeah, those notable big names are not there. They have not secured retainer contracts. I don't think they had any contracts for the previous period either, right? And so but from a T20 standpoint now, especially between a Hetmeyer, a Puran, and a Russell, I think that this happens, so they because they might have declined, right? Because they want to give themselves the flexibility to play in other franchise leagues around the world, while making themselves available for West Indies. But with a retainer contract, your commitment to playing for West Indies is you are required. I think you are required to show up when you're called, when you're under contract, right? As opposed to not having a contract, and you show up and play, as you feel, but most of these players, but apart from Andre Russell, I would say Nicholas Puran shows up to play for the West Indies in most T20 series. Hetmeyer, when he is called up, in recent times, he's had his issues, but whenever he's called up, he usually shows up, apart from when he was having his issues, right? Jason Holder, we see where in recent years he has turned down, playing test cricket, to focus on developing his T20 game and so on and so forth. But he was not under a retainer contract. So it gives them the flexibility to do that, you know, and in all honesty, the contracts are the retainer contracts aren't as valuable, you know, financially, right? Compared to what some of these players are making in franchise leagues around the world, right? So especially the top players like a Puran, a Hetmeyer, a Russell, you know, they are likely to make more money, you know, playing in franchise leagues around the world as opposed to securing a retainer contract, right? So while they they do show up and play for West Indies, you know, they want to give themselves that flexibility and the option of also playing in other leagues and, you know, maximizing their earnings potential, you know, in those leagues, right? So I think that's the main reason why we don't see a Puran or a Hetmeyer in there. But players that are there, though, you know, that have been retained from a T20 standpoint, you know, and so Robman Powell is the captain, right? He's been retained. Rastan Chase, you know, he's been predominantly a T20 player. You know, Akil Hussein, who is now ranked as in the top 3 of in terms of T20 bowlers, he's been retained. You know, Shamar Joseph been retained as well. So quite a few players from the T20 World Cup team, you know, have been retained. You know, good to see Gudakesh Moti securing a contract. Who he is an all-format player for us, right? Likewise, Brandon King, right? Brandon King, you know, a lot of people have been saying that, you know, King should play Test cricket, right? And it's interesting to see that King is one of those players that have secured a multi-year contract, right? Which tells me that Cricket West Indies, you know, have big plans for King in terms of using him regularly, whether it's in the T20 format or in other formats, the ODI format, or maybe even in the Test format, right? So definitely looking good for Brandon King. You know, seem as if he is fully recovered from that injury that he sustained, you know, in the World Cup, and hence they are willing to offer him a 2-year contract, because you wouldn't offer someone a 2-year contract, you know, someone that you suspect, you know, have is injury prone or is carrying a serious injury. So that looks good for Brandon King from that standpoint. Right. Look, if you look at the Test players that were retained now, right? Quite a few of them are batters that are in the top 6, right? So you look at a Brathwaite, you know, he's the opener, captain. Like I said, some will argue that, you know, he should not be there. You know, there's always arguments about Brathwaite and his captaincy and so on, right? And then Casey Carty, you know, he is, I would say, a Test player and maybe a ODI player for us as well, right? So he's there, and he batted at 3 in the recently concluded Test series against South Africa, right? So Kavim Hodge, you know, he's come into the team, you know, batting in that number 5 position, and he's done relatively well, you know, scoring a century in England, you know, batted well in Australia as well, and looked good in the South Africa series as well, in a few of the innings as well, right? So Hodge, you know, his performances, you know, have secured him a contract. You know, I'm glad to see that they are rewarding him for some of his performances that he's displayed for the team. You know, likewise from a Test standpoint, you know, you're looking at the bowlers, Jaden Seals. You know, he's been our leading bowler in the Test arena, you know, since his return from injury. We saw it in the England series, right? He was the leading wicket taker. We saw it in the South Africa series as well. So, you know, he's actually one of those players that secure a multi-year contract. So Cricket West Indies definitely showing a lot of faith in Jaden Seals, you know, as he continues to develop, you know, and hone his craft and get better as a bowler. So good to see that as well. You know, Azar Joseph, right? Multi-format player for us as well, you know, securing a multi-year contract. You know, when Azar is unsung, right, when he's in form, there's no doubt that he is our strike bowler, you know, one of our best bowlers, right? The series in England and wasn't his best, you know, and he was given, you know, he was rested for the South Africa series, right? And hopefully, you know, once he returns, you know, refreshed, and he'll be ready to go and back to his usual self. You know, he's had a decent CPL so far. You know, taking I think he's up there in terms of wicket takers. You know, not leading wicket taker, but he's taken a few wickets. You know, so he's had a decent CPL. So hopefully Azari can find back his top form and do well for the West Indies. You know, Shamar Joseph, you know, young more than likely an all format player for us as well, but definitely a T20 player and definitely a test player for us, right? So he secured a multi-year contract as well. So the Cricket West Indies are showing faith in the youngsters. You look at Shamar, Joseph, Jaden Sears, young fast bowlers, with a lot of potential, still room for development, but they are what they have shown so far. They have shown that they are capable of playing at the highest level, and not only playing but also performing and taking wickets at the highest level, which is something that you always want to see, right? Gurakesh Moti, likewise, right? He's up there in terms of the T20 format, currently ranked in the top 3 as well, right? So it goes without saying that he's one of our best T20 bowlers, in the test format as well. He didn't have the best series against England or even against South Africa, but we know what Moti can do. He's proven it, especially in the T20 format, and but we know his quality can be transferred to the test format as well, and possibly even to ODI format, right? So no surprises there that Moti secured a contract, as well, a multi-year contract as well, right? So as you can see, the women's are there as well, right? With Hayley Matthews, Shermaine Campbell, and Stephanie Taylor securing multi-year contracts, right? Hayley Matthews goes without saying, right? She is currently one of the best players in the world, right? No matter what the format is, right? And she has been leading the way for the West Indies team as captain, in all the formats that they play, whether that's the ODI format or the T20 format. She has led the way with the bat, and just her overall all-round performances, have really done well for the team. So no surprises there that she secured a multi-year contract. Stephanie Taylor, likewise, veteran now in the team, but she's still producing and performing for the team at the highest level. Especially with the bat, not so much with bowling these days, but her quality, there's no doubt in her quality, in the team. Then Deandra Dottin, good to see Dottin, securing a contract after coming out of retirement, which it just, I'm sure there was some sort of negotiation there between her and Cricket West Indies. So it definitely tells you that she is committed to the cause and committed to playing for the team, and then of course you have the youngsters like Ramna Raka, Kiana, Joseph, so good to see the quite a few of these players. Most of the women players have secured contracts, and Cricket West Indies investing in the youngsters in the men's format as well. Casey Carty, he's young, Jaden C is young, Shamar Joseph young, right? So it's looking good, right? The big name players are missing, but they are in demand, right? They are in demand, in T20 franchise leagues, right? So, it gives them having the flexibility to do that. It's, for me personally, it's not a huge issue, as long as they make themselves available, when most needed for West Indies duty, then I am okay with that as well, right? And again, them having so many opportunities to play, in other franchise leagues, them taking a retainer contract would actually, probably be stopping a player who's not in as much demand as them from, securing a contract, and securing some earnings, right? So, if depending on how you look at it, it can actually be a good thing, because if they took the contract, then it would just be, and with their ability to play in other leagues around the world as compared to some of the other players who are not in as much demand, then some would argue that they're just being greedy and preventing other players from being able to eat a food, as Jamaicans would say, right? So, it depends on how you look at it, so it can actually be a good thing that some of the big name players, don't have contracts, because they don't really need it, right? They will be called up whether they have contracts or not, right? So why not just, leave the contract and leave space for another player to secure a contract that might not have the opportunities that they will have, right? So, you know, it's there are a lot of arguments that can be made from it, but overall, I think it's a good list of players that have been retained by Cricket West Indies, and definitely looking forward to see, you know, how this pans out for the teams in all formats of the game. Right, but that's all I have for you in this video. Viewers and subscribers, you know, definitely share your thoughts in the comment section on this one. You know, what do you think about the players that were retained, and who wasn't retained that you are surprised wasn't retained, or you would have wanted to see retained. Notably though, for the test format, you know, there's no Shamar Roach. Shamar Roach has not been retained. So Cricket West Indies might be slowly moving away from Shamar Roach. Right. So that's also something that stood out to me in when looking over the list. Right. But as always, thank you for tuning in. Do remember to like the video, you know, share your thoughts in the comment section, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so as yet. Thank you, and I will see you in the next video.